We're going to drop it later on here on the show. We know they hear and speak to Manifest Live, M. Dots, live here on the show. But we've got a very important conversation also to have, Roland Walker.
Yes, and we're asking some critical questions here because all of us are going through a lot. But what are the issues and the challenges we're going through? And we're having a conversation on what all of us may have or are losing because of coronavirus. A conversation, Mamavi, on whether job losses, collapsed businesses, or failed relationships, or marriages, or now habitating, and people will now, because of lockdown and post-lockdown, have to live together with all its attendant problems. Of course,
COVID-19 has brought along with it a lot of disruptions. Some people have lost their jobs, temporary workers, laborers. Some completely lost their jobs. In other instances, the business are simply insolvent. So what have you lost is the question that we put on Facebook, and here are the comments. Let's share them with you. Albert Ebi says, I lost contacts I took, which I was expecting to receive the fund after the virus, if not for the contracts, I beg your pardon. If not for the virus, I would have gotten the funds. But the COVID-19, just turned everything around.
Yeah. And it's cast a certain shadow on businesses ultimately.
We're going to be sharing more of the comment that we received on Facebook and then also interact with someone that we reached out to. Dennis Osei says, my opportunity to enter into the university. Okay, so there you go. Somebody says contract, somebody says education. Stephen Kofi Ajako says, church meeting, of course, is the most I have missed. Oh. Bright says, my job. DK Moses also says
my job.
Yes, job. Clifford says half of my salary. Clifford Akoto says half of my salary, because we know in instances workers must agree to a slash, a cut in their salary so that they can still continue to have work. Favored Eagle says the happiness of my pupils during lessons when they're having their break, during assessment, and even after closing, when they move in groups to cross the roads. Teaching is a noble profession. That's Favored Eagle sharing what he's lost, what he's missed. Moshiba says, I've lost my capital. Soko says, job opportunity. Abdul Wahab Osman says, my job. So essentially, you can also go to Facebook and just add your voice. Abraham Allison says, half of my salary and contracts. All gone because of COVID-19. What have you also lost? Go to Facebook and put your comments there. You can also send us a WhatsApp message. We're going to put the WhatsApp number on your screen. Pope Emeritus says, my source of income is shots. Caroline Sarah says, I'm into catering now. No orders for events. Businesses have closed. Not easy. Certainly not easy. Nessie says, I've lost my money. Mick Ville says, my job, I'm a teacher, and you can imagine how it feels. Absolutely, we can. We have very close people who have also lost very crucial staff. Joey says, my shop is closed because of COVID-19. Accra Art Center's main patronizers are tourists, and since the borders are closed, there's no business. The whole of 2020 is going to be slow for our markets. Oh, this is absolutely heartbreaking. I've also been checking around with what people in Europe and in America have been saying, not different from what you've just heard. There's one that I read, person has worked for 10 years, says, I have never been out of work, and out of the blue, I was just called. Somebody was also sent an email, and they also just lost their jobs. Some people couldn't even take anything back because the companies didn't exist. They were just insolvent, and so they couldn't make anything back after working in some cases for 20 years. Roland, we're going to talk to one of the people who reached out and sent us a comment on that Facebook post.
Yes, we are going to have on Zoom, streaming him into the studio and helping us with the conversation, Joy Kombat. And of course, we want to broaden the discussion, so we'll have the expert, and Austin Gamey is also there. You can see him. But on the side of counseling and the psychological aspect, we have our own Amos Kevin and a guidance and counseling expert. Also, he's a church leader, and so we're bringing the conversation to you because we'll open the phone lines, Mama V, for everybody subsequently at the tail end of this great discussion to come in. That is what we do right here on the show, creating convergence, empathy, and making sure all of us are participating.
Let's start off with Joy, and good morning to all of you gentlemen. Thank you for making time. Joy.
Hi, good morning, Mama V.
Yes.
Good morning. Good morning, Mama V. And
Roland. Thank you.
Good morning, Uncle Austin. Good to see you.
Thank you, Roland. Great to see you.
Joy, I haven't heard your good morning.
Yeah, I'm good. Good morning.
Great. Good to have you, and thank you for opening up. So you sell artifacts at the Arts Center. Tell us a bit more about your business.
For me personally, I sell arts and crafts, mostly painting, t-shirts, African t-shirts and African artworks, artifacts at the Culture Center. Yeah, that's what I do.
Okay, and obviously because the borders are closed, tourists are not coming in, so you're out of business. How are you managing? How have you managed? Because it's been a while.
Well, I have been indoors for almost a month and a week, or probably a month and 2 weeks, because of the lockdown. And even when the lockdown was lifted, I went to the market, and you know, since the borders are closed, Accra Center, most of are usually the tourists. I mean, sometimes Ghanaians do patronize, but not like how the tourists do. So since the borders are closed, it has affected our business so much. That's the situation. So I've been there after the lockdown, and there's nobody coming through. So it's just a waste of your lorry fare in and out. So you either decide to stay home or go and then sell nothing. And that's the situation.
I can understand. Yesterday I went to Malamata, and there's a particular woman I buy smoked fish from. I asked the tomato seller by her. She didn't show up, and she explained that she lives in Pokwase and coming all the way from Pokwase to Malamata, and if nobody comes to buy, then she's even wasted money on transportation. So sometimes she simply doesn't show up.
Exactly. That's how it is, and that's how it feels. So you either decide to stay home or you go and then you don't sell anything. Maybe you just go and chat with your other friends and then come back. You sell nothing. Yeah.
So how are you taking care of yourself? Because for most of us, I mean, it's hand to mouth.
Yeah, that's the situation. It's hand to mouth. And even though our business, even without the lockdown, without COVID-19, is usually hand to mouth.
Well, Joy, thank you very much for sharing with us. Just hang in there. Let's bring in Mr. Austin Gamey.
Yeah.
Mr. Gamey, it's inevitable at this time.
So,
okay. Joy, are you trying to say something?
That's what we did. No, I'm okay.
Okay, all right, great. Mr. Gamey, I was coming to you, and I started off by saying that it is inevitable to lose your job at this time. I mean, if the business can't pay you, then they just have to look at your contracts and either renegotiate something or they simply let you go. But what kind of skills, negotiating skills, do you need first of all? We know of friends, family members who have simply been asked to go because the business can't take care of them.
Thank you, Mamavi, and your brother Roland there. To be honest with you, business is a business if you have customers. And obviously, if you don't have customers, then you don't have business. Therefore, a lot of the businesses, just like our friend Joel there said, is hard hit because he has no customers to patronize his wares. And therefore, you are not in business. And that obviously goes to, both small, medium, and large corporate bodies as well. Most of them now are completely out of business. Those of them who are doing something are just warming up the place in the hope that with time they will be able to bounce back to business again. And so it's a very difficult time we find ourselves in. This is a period when people must see themselves as stakeholders. Stakeholders are people who have interest in the success story of what they do, as well as now you don't have to take a traditional adversarial posture that we are used to in getting ourselves together to work. If you do that, you will be the loser. So it's important that we see ourselves today as partners and see how the conversation will be elevated to another level to bring about some level of appreciation of what should be done to help and support each other. I think that's what we've come to now in this new normal.
I must, Kevin, and I mean, for somebody to suddenly be called or sent an email that says, this is your last day, we cannot continue to have you in the business. I mean, that in itself, particularly around this COVID era, if it probably had happened on any other occasion, no COVID, you probably still have the hope that, you could get another job. But now, with everything else happening, who is hiring?
Nobody is hiring. Good morning, Mama V. Good morning, Uncle Austin and Roland, as well as our gentleman who has just shared his heart with us. I think that it is indeed very, there's nobody who has been able to evade or avoid the harsh realities that COVID-19 has brought to our world. They come in different degrees, and people have different coping thresholds. Some can be flexible and become adaptive to new trends. Others may not, because they would have become overwhelmed. Now, in between the person who is flexible and able to adapt and one who has become overwhelmed and therefore maybe contemplating things that they have never conceived before, is where we have to find that flexible and have adapted to new ways of earning. They should be able to support those who are not able to do so. And it is so important, like Uncle Gamey said, stakeholder engagement. We must see ourselves as people who must creatively co-depend on one another. The reason being that some have actually lost dear ones. Others have lost their daily sustenance. Literally, it's gone. And so between the person who has lost a daily living source of income and one who has come to a point of saying to themselves that my dreams have been shattered, there's a need for everybody to understand that indeed, like he rightly said, is a new normal. Sitting here, I've had a new normal. I'm very outdoorsy, but I have been indoors all through. This is unfamiliar. This is unlike me. And each one of us has a story to tell. Multimedia, even though you do interface with technology, the volume in engaging your resource persons is unusual. So each one of us is on a path we have never been before. Some people witness certain periods, but we, this generation, this is a new normal. And so there's a need for us all to face our
and
live in a different world. For us, this is a harsh reality.
Yeah, the new normal also for us is disruptions in the internet connectivity every now and then when we're having conversations, because we're heavily reliant on internet. Roland?
Yeah, and Joel, you because you work in the informal sector, how do you relate or take all the conversations from the states?
That's very important for
about, well, they are going to give maybe bailout or some incentives to businesses, etc.
Yeah.
And how do you hope that perhaps you can also get that sort of support or extension? Well, we're having a freeze, but look, let me just go to Uncle Gamey. Uncle Gamey, are you there? Uncle Gamey?
Well, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. If
you to help businesses especially widows.
Okay, we don't have the best of connections there. So I guess we'll have to let Joey hold for a while. Roland, you can talk to Mr. Gamey now.
I think I'll advise Joey just leave the meeting and then come in again and then join again. Perhaps maybe we can get a better connection. Now, Mr. Gamey, if you look at the advanced countries or even countries in Northern Africa or Southern Africa, they get to tell you numbers of job losses. Just over the last 12 hours, Uber said 3,700 staff, and these are not the drivers, had to be laid off. In the US, 30 million, etc. In our part of the world, we don't talk with data. Now, how does that guide those who employ people and how they need to plan?
Well, thank you. Well, as you know, our informal sector is virtually about 90%, and the formal sector is about 10%. Today, the informal sector is completely decimated in one way or the other. Even farmers are able to go to farm the usual way. Indeed, I have been following the news 24 hours sleeplessly. And to be honest with you, it does appear as though our country is even hard hit more than other places. The difference is that they died a lot more through the COVID-19, but we have suffered both spiritually, mentally, and work-wise, or if you like, business-wise. So the informal sector, we have to take our time to quantify really the number of fitters who are immediately out of business, the number of organizers who are immediately out of business, people, painters, and several of them, they are completely broken down, and it will take time to enable us to come to that. In the medium-sized business, including myself, I have 30 workers. I have to send almost about 22 of them home long before even announcement of the president, because I foresaw it and took steps and engaged them. And we've been trying to manage ourselves from home. Today, I have 5 of them back to work. We've been trying to engage ourselves here and there. The hotels are not working, and we do a lot of training and workshop. This is not yet back online. So it's a very, very dicey situation. And so you need a new, like we said, the new normalcy is to enable us elevate our skill, our knowledge to another level, and learn to appreciate the dynamics of the new situation. Otherwise, our engagement will be fruitless, and marriages are being broken, I'm a mediator, and therefore I have already received a number of complaints from various homes. And so you can imagine what it is. It's no joke at all. I am a consultant to a number of companies, including hotels. I do not even have the courage to submit to them bills to pay because they have not worked. They have chained their doors. And so I do not know what to become that of the workers. Some of them are to be paid some support, as the employers term it to be, and workers need to, and the unions will have to come together to appreciate the challenge they have and take the new normalcy to the next level.
Now, Joel, I asked an earlier question. Please discard it, Joey. So this question, your target usually will be tourists, normal visitors, and there's now the conversation about how the new normal would mean that we need to innovate. You have to change the way you do business. How do you intend reinventing yourself?
I think the best way will be online shopping. But then with online shopping, since the whole world is being hit by this COVID-19, I think even in the US and all of those people that used to come, that you would think they would want, you know, artworks and those stuff that we sell at the market. Many people have also lost their jobs. So it's a big problem because when you put it online, and most of us don't even have what the capital it takes to put it online. For instance, if you want a website online and how much you pay a month for a website, you know, all those things come into play. So I think if I've seen on Facebook and elsewhere people being given stimulus checks and all that. So if the government could help us in a way, especially with those at the informal sector, in any way that will help us to be able to support our businesses, and then we can land back on our feet again, because it has really distorted our market and our business.
If we have to take a look at the large numbers of those not in formal employment, it will mean that we need to do something about their state of mind and the sort of connectivity that they need. Mr. Amos Kevin.
Yeah, definitely, Roland. Our state of mind is very, very important in these times. It doesn't matter the level of the person, informal or formal, or expertise. In the area of managing, first and foremost, the information that comes to us. There's something known as infodemic. When Uncle Gamey said that he's been watching the news and following all the trends, there are some individuals following the news itself can cause a new crisis for them. So not only would they be dealing with the pandemic, they will also be dealing with infodemic, because not every information is accurate. Some information is devious, some of it distorted. Others just diabolic inklings of individuals. So you also want to manage the kind of information flow that comes to you. You should have the capacity to decipher between what is just fake news and what is authentic news. That's so important. Now, to do that, first and foremost, you must acknowledge there's a change. You see, when you live in a state of denial, your condition will be worse. And so, like Mama V said, the lady who comes from Pokwase has acknowledged that there's a change in the prospects of sales of her tomatoes. So for that reason, she would rather stay within Pokwase and maybe reach out to those within Pokwase rather than taking a vehicle all the way to the heart of Accra, which is congested anyway. But you see that people are there. They may not be patronizing the things that they are supposed to be patronizing, because we must also recognize, especially those within the service industry and the sales point, consumer preferences and priorities have shifted. If you look at even what happened in the West, toilet papers became a new essential commodity. I did not understand it until it hit me at home, that we're using more toilet papers in this short period than we had used the whole of last year. And that is a real awakening call to an individual. So let's accept, yes, there's a shift, but let us also take consolation in the fact that the degrees to which these things impact us are different. Others have experienced it in a very harsh way. So instead of just counting our losses, it may also require of us to begin to look at our blessings. Because there have been some fatalities elsewhere, which have not yet hit us in the volumes that have overwhelmed very sophisticated places. I mean, the region of Italy that has been hardest hit. I spent 30 days there, and I know how rich that environment is. Very, very rich people live there. And yet look at how their health system grounded to a halt. And so we also need to come to that point. Now, we need to help people to also understand that this is not an end in itself. Life has not come to a halt. It is now good, like you said, reinventing ourselves. Because see, families need to rediscover themselves. And when people are rediscovering who they are at the home level, it is then that they realize that for all this while, we've been escaping each other's negatives and the tensions that existed in us. And here we have been trying to avoid conflict, not to resolve conflict. I was a student of Uncle Gamey when he taught us the use of pulse, people using language skills effectively. And it is there that your communication skills then comes to the fore. If you don't know how to manage how you're going to interact and endure exchanges, you would see how tension will be in the home. And no wonder families will be breaking apart, marriages will be breaking apart, because we have always been out for like 12 hours, and then we come home and we are just heading to bed. So we haven't really experienced, except for the weekends where maybe some of us will go to the temples, the shrines, and the mosque and what have you, and then into the churches. But these have become escape valves for us. Now, the reality is this, that now we have to rediscover ourselves. And when we rediscover ourselves, we'll see our strengths, we'll see our weaknesses, we'll see how much dependent we are on each other. And for a very long time, many of us have dreaded the dependency that we have. And dependency is not necessarily negative. No. Why are we telling others to wear masks so that we also wear masks? It's because I protect myself, but invariably I also protect you. So we are actually depending on each other. Rather than try to be independent. You see, nobody is created and designed to be an island. We are interdependent on each other. Yeah. Look at the way nations are interdependent right now. So the interconnectivity and the network around ourselves now needs to be enhanced.
Okay. Absolutely.
Who's your friend? Yeah. Who can you talk to? Speak to somebody rather than suffer in silence.
We will come back to the relationship issue, but I asked you a question earlier, Mr. Gamey. What terms should you agree to if it's your job that's being affected?
Thank you. The reality is that some of the businesses is not because the employers decide to close down. The disruption that came forced them out of business. In other countries, people are filing insolvencies. Here, we are not too much associated with insolvency. Often because of collective agreement-based type of job that we do, we tend to talk about severance and therefore demanding redundancy pay. But this is not in that domain. This is a disruption that confronted employers, and everybody have to escape for his life. We are now accounting for those who have either died or have suffered mentally in such a way that they may not even want to even go back to their jobs. In the interim, what can be done is for those who have unions, the unions and the employers will have to sit together, have a conversation, not argument, not debate, be able to reach some agreement that will satisfy both parties. You have a half a glass full of water, you half glass of water, you take it instead of looking for the full glass. That's what it is now. And I'm praying that normalcy, the new normalcy, will be a real normalcy. And we must also have a long-term plan that these businesses will not return to even the new normalcy in the next 3 months or 6 months. It's a long haul. It will take about 1 year for things to come back to some level of normalcy. And so people must brave themselves for it. Unions must learn to re-engage and have this kind of conversation. Employers must learn to be a little bit sober and reflect over the issues and have empathy with their workers. And together, they would have, some will have to wait to be assured of job security until the businesses bounce to normalcy. Let me restate that any business without customers is no business. Therefore, North America, the mainland of the US, Europe, where people come to our country to do business with us, if they are not going to open their borders, and if they are not going to be willing to travel, because we now have to know that many of our customers are even dead. And therefore, we have to open up for a brand new understanding. It's a paradigm shift in its complete sense.
Is there would you advise litigation at this time?
It's to be tragic for you to waste your energy going into litigation. It's about conversation. It's about having mediators or facilitators and people like my friend and brother, Mr. Anand, to have that engagement, to have that conversation, to be able to find a solution that satisfies both sides. If you go to court, you will have a winner-loser kind of situation on your hand. And losers, some of them will never talk to each other again. Some of them will never relate again. So this is a time for a facilitated type of mediation and negotiation in an interest-based approach, not the traditional adversarial approach, take it or leave it. Positional bargaining will lead you to nothing.
But, I want to come to you, Amos Kevin Anand. Do I have an option if I am doing somebody's business and they say we can't have you any longer?
Unfortunately, you may have options, but they may be very minimal. Your option at the barest minimal will be to discuss with them terms of severance. Because like Uncle Austin rightly said, our narrative must change. And now we are all going to go with the mindset of putting ourselves in the shoes of each other. So the employer must place their shoes in the employee's shoes. And the employee must also place themselves in the shoes of the employer, who now is going to be hard hit because the revenue that used to be is no more. I've heard of media houses talk about advertising because the products are not being purchased. Why? Because our priorities and preferences as consumers and customers have changed. And so there are some products that will not be purchased at this mature moment. I remember Easter, just Thursday prior to the Easter, services, I took a shot of my wardrobe. I had ironed my clothes and polished my shoe for Easter Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And it hit me hard that I've stayed home, never wore a shoe. And yet I had the shoes there. So all of a sudden, the things that I had that are material are no longer essential. Now I have to think of how to stay safe. And staying safe did not require wearing a shoe. It now requires you wearing a mask. It requires you now having a sanitizer or a washing basin or a Veronica bucket. Many homes didn't have Veronica buckets, but all of a sudden now they have Veronica buckets at the front door, and when you are coming to your own home, you have to wash your hands. I mean, so the employee may have some option, but it is conversational. Talk to your bosses. Some of them may be willing to hire you and reduce your pay, maybe by half. And that may not be the hard approach that normally you take. And so we should take away this element of litigation. I think that word has to be dropped in our lexicon in these times. And labor unions and group formations that exist should tone down on the choice of words, the tempo, and the heat that we generate. We're a nation that tends to love heat. And we think that heat is what, brings results. No, not at all. Not in these times, because these are not normal times.
Yeah.
So if you do your things the way you have always done, you are likely not going to have any result. Now, the other thing is this, that employees must now look at how can I also take advantage of the platform of the online systems. Can I produce content for people who are consuming things online? I've seen some innovations. Cartoonists doing illustrations and all those kinds of things going up. So the guy who did data analysis is now being called because you have to check data for us. Statistics is now becoming all of a sudden a very important part of our life. So everybody's skill, like Uncle Gamey said, we have to begin to tweak our skills and upscale it, and then bring it to the fore. And you never know who would be willing to purchase that. Because there are people who are also looking for new things to purchase, and they are there. Let's
get our viewers to join us via phone. You can give us a call, 030221169102. You can also send us messages. We've got our WhatsApp number ready as well. So send us WhatsApp messages there and give us a call right now. Phone lines open, 030221169102. I want us to spend just some few minutes talking about the relationship matter. Mr. Gamey, you started off by saying, you've had some issues brought to your table. What is dominating all the concerns, the things that are coming to you?
Yeah, it's not strange, but it's now raised to another proportional level that could become a real tussle in this country shortly. A lot of marriages are on the block. The problem is that some people have lost their jobs, like you said, and because of the immediate past of them not working together cooperatively as a family, as people who claim they love each other. Now there is a demand on the man to provide, and he is unable to provide because he can't even go to work. And so the woman is selling a little bit of ice water along the road, is now the breadwinner and want to dictate. Maybe not want to dictate, but want the narrative to change. And the man is not used to that. And so it has become an issue. I have a number of issues that have been brought to me now, and I'm seeking to have them have a pre-mediation meeting with them and help them to resolve it. Where we have the capacity, so we'll be able to help some of them. I don't know who else will help them. And so it's a major issue. And then labor-related issues have become also part of it. And in all these things, it's about now marriages are online. Friends are no longer talking, and it's a major issue. I have a lot of them on my table. If you can come and help solve it.
No. This is for you and you only. We can only pray for you and wish you well. Let's pick a few phone calls. Jerry is calling from Kumasi. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning, madam.
Yes, sir. Thank you for reaching out. Let's hear you.
Yeah. This pandemic has been affecting my job because I'm an architect. And, sometimes we do away from the foreigners, those who live in abroad. Yeah. So right now I've employed one or 2 guys. Because of the work, so I will tell them they should stay home a bit so that everything is going well, and then I'll be call them back. So it has affected our job very well.
Well, we apologize for that, but just still keep hope alive. Al Hassan is in Kumasi. Al Hassan, good morning. What's your story?
Morning, madam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please, I would like to talk a little about our relationships with our family.
Go ahead, Al Hassan.
Okay. I am a government worker. I have been in a work for more than a decade. And seriously, I don't have much time for my partner. But due to this pandemic, I'm here with her, and seriously, things are not all that easy. You see, so let's pray and then see what
I beg. Let's talk about that something.
We need to know each other right now more than what we already know about ourselves.
Al Hassan, not so quick. Tell us about, because you were smiling at a point. So what is it like? What are you getting used to now?
Seriously, I used to help her in our daily housework. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting used to bathing our baby girl. sometimes cleaning the house and etc.
Aha. All right, Al Hassan. Well, enjoy it. Get used to it. This is the new normal. But I'm happy you're taking it all well. It's good to hear, Roland.
Mama V.
Yes, Afo.
Hello, Mama V. Can you imagine, in the midst of the unusual, we venture to do the unfamiliar? Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
The unfamiliar may be unsettling for many of us, discomforting, but gradually, with effort, sacrifice, and willingness, we would then desire that to be a new familiar. So I'm very happy for Al Hassan. What they need to understand is that we work together. You see, the emphasis on working together or being better together is always to be preferred over I am good alone. Those people in relationships and marriages who have lived their lives as good alone, all of a sudden are together and cannot come to terms with the fact that now we have to adjust and be flexible so that we will be better together. I am hoping that out of this COVID-19, I will be a better me. And each one of us must strive to be a better me in every aspect of our lives, especially in the home setting. We would have tensions, we will have discomforts, there will be some conflicts. Let us not run away from conflicts. Conflicts are part and inherent in human endeavor. Wherever there
Yeah. Mr. Gamey, what finally would you arm us with?
There's potentially conflict.
Okay.
And let us find ways of creatively managing our differences.
All right. Amos, Kevin, I think we lost you a bit there, but you came up to finish that. So let's end with you, Mr. Gamey.
Apologies, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We still got what you said. Mr. Gamey, what would you arm us with all the things that we're faced with?
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah. I have been, like I said, I've been listening to news extensively, and I have observed my fears all these years that. And let me mention some 4 people. Let me mention Dr. Randiabe of Randiabe, Evans Mensah, your own, and then the pair of you, Mama V and Roland. I followed in Ghana extensively all the media houses as much as I could, and the way we ask our questions will also have to change. The way the use of language in the media space will also have to change. And I've seen that the 2 of you being pairs, Evans Mensah, also of Joy, and Dr. Randy Abbey. You have elevated yourselves to an appreciable level of how you ask questions and your manner of use of language. And I intend even coming over to tell you people, but this is an opportunity to mention it and to say that we need to rediscover ourselves and use appropriate language, because the misuse of language is part of the problem we are having. Governments will also have to change its ways of doing things. People in minority leadership will also have to change their ways. All of us, people who are in the clergy, people who are in academia, everybody, including myself, we all have to change completely the way we do things, because we have lived and contributed in some negative ways and in many ways. And today, the pandemic has really brought all of us to our knees. And so we must not continue in the traditional way we do things any longer.
Okay.
I am praying that businesses would bounce back, but slowly, and people must learn to accept that it will be very, very slow. And finally, let me say that it's up to all of us not to deliberately keep quiet and allow people to throw us into garbage.
Okay.
That's all I have to say.
All right.
Oh, thank
We
you.
thank you for your time, gentlemen. Thank you for helping us with this very important conversation. We wish you well, and please stay safe.
Enjoy
It's an honor.
Kombat too.
Thank you.
Enjoy
too.
All right.
Kombat too.
Joy, yes, Joy also joined us earlier.
Okay.
Thank you to all those of you who also reached out on our Facebook
And WhatsApp.
posts. When we come back, we've got M. Dots live, and we're dropping his new sound. But in the meantime, enjoy this one that he did featuring Promise, and it's Miniwara.